I'm Allan Thompson. I'm a career journalist, but I teach journalism at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. And I've been involved the last 2 or 3 years with this program, Radio Convergence and Development in Africa, which is funded by the International Development Research Centre in Canada, but I think indirectly also funded by DFID through IDRC. And in a nutshell, this program has tried to look at the nexus between conventional radio, which everyone knows about, which Mary Myers clearly identified as still being king among media in Africa. So to look at the nexus of conventional radio, which is an ICT, and other ICTs, particularly the internet, mobile phones, SMS, text messaging, and try and figure out what is the convergence of those media platforms. What's it tell us about development? What's happening now? How could that convergence enhance the impact? And so we did a call for proposals. We ended up with about 150 submissions and had 16 projects all across Africa and across the spectrum really of small seed grants, first-time researchers, young research, sort of medium-sized grants that involved one researcher with a larger institution or a team of researchers, and then several grants that were larger with more established organizations, universities, and over the course of 2 years they essentially fanned out and looked at different aspects of convergence, and particularly we were looking at this nexus between radio and ICTs. At this point, we're at the end of this project essentially. It's wrapping up just in a few weeks, and we decided to bring a few of the researchers together again, particularly those who were the recipients of seed grants or who didn't have a sort of major institutional affiliation, and I think partly to try and keep this network together, to keep these individuals as people in touch with each other. And so we're talking about something that we could have talked about more at the beginning of this whole process. How can they make sure that the research that they do gets into use? What sort of impact is it going to have? Who is going to make use of the knowledge that they have generated? But by doing this at the end of this project, I think we're also in some ways back at the beginning of this policy spectrum, where we're now looking at maybe new ideas for what we realized we didn't fully accomplish in the project, and the sort of endless avenues for research that we could head down. I'm particularly interested in what convergence means for journalism practice in Africa. So everyone knows it's the cliche of mobile phone penetration and this being the revolution. I don't think we really got as far as we wanted to in trying to examine, well, what does this mean for journalists in newsrooms doing their jobs? How are they using these tools, or how could they be using these tools more effectively? And how could the knowledge of how to use these tools effectively to improve journalistic practice, how could what works in one setting be applied in another? And how could you create toolkits, for example, in transitional societies, where ironically mobile phone penetration is almost at its highest, at a time when the need for good journalism to inform people, to engage people, to hold burgeoning governing institutions to account is also a great need. So it's been a 2.5-3 year program. It's coming to an end, but certainly we have this network of researchers who are in touch with each other, who are at the end of this process trying to figure out how can they make sure that the work that they did is put to use and somehow influences policy, and maybe how can they work together on a new project.